Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and hit record on this session, and we'll get started. So I just want to welcome everybody. I'm Stephanie, I'm the Director of Healthy UNCG, the Employee Wellness Program here at UNCG, and I'm excited to introduce you guys to Mari today. Mari Moore has been our summer intern, and she is in the gerontology program currently. She's going to go into more of a detailed introduction of herself, so I won't steal all her thunder there, but we've been really excited to work with her this summer on expanding some of our resources that we can bring to employees, specifically in the area of older adult programming, elder care, and support for caregivers. So she's been really helpful at helping us with content for our website and social media, Q&A and resources, and then presentations like this. So I'm excited to have her with us. Today's format is going to be pretty informal. So Mari's going to tell you a little bit about her and some of, just give you kind of a brief overview and set the tone for today. But really we want this to be a session where you get your questions answered. So she'll probably chat for about 10 minutes with all of us, and then we'll open it up to any questions that you might have. And you're welcome to either submit those questions in the chat. If you don't want to have your name identified, you can submit them privately to me or to Mari, and we can read them out loud. If you don't want them read out loud and you still have a question following this presentation, you can email myself or Mari, and we can try to get you answers or point you in the direction of a resource. So there's a couple different options. Oh, and you can also just unmute yourself, unmute yourself and ask your question, in the room. So that's going to be our format. And so with that, Mari, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself and get started.
All right, well, I'm Mari Moore. I'm a graduate student in the gerontology program at UNCG. I currently am an elder abuse advocate for Family Services of the Piedmont, and I had the pleasure of doing my capstone with Healthy UNCG just to provide some more resources that we have in the community for faculty and staff. I'm a graduate from Winston-Salem State University with my bachelor's in gerontology, and I will be finished this summer with my master's. I'll be done as soon as this is over. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about Family Services of the Piedmont first. So Family Services of the Piedmont is the largest nonprofit organization serving Guilford County. It serves Greensboro and High Point. So at Family Services, our main focus is to empower families and bring them back together. We do a number of different things as far as we service the community in elder abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence, human trafficking, child abuse, as well as mental health and substance abuse. We have a lot of different departments that we focus on, but today's focus will be elder abuse. And I also want to say thank you all for coming. Today, June 15th, is Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So it's a very important day for me and my company as well. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time out today just to hear a little bit more about what I do and how you can help your family and keep them safe. So we're going to go ahead and get into elder abuse. So here I have given you just a few different types of elder abuse and their signs. So as far as physical elder abuse, the signs would be burns, broken bones, bruises, unexplained hair loss, signs of self-treated injuries, sprains, tooth loss, and dislocated joints. As far as emotional abuse is depression, attempt to hurt others, or a big one is attempt to hurt self. They avoid eye contact when they're having conversations. Eating and sleep patterns are off. So some form of sundowning where they're asleep during most of the day and up during most of the night. It's also a sign of dementia, but it's also a sign of emotional abuse. Isolation, like they don't want to be around anyone, and their mood swings seem to be very unusual. Sexual abuse for elders is different than people who are in the younger community. And when I say elders, I mean anyone 50 or older. Some signs would be like new STDs that they don't know that they have or unaware of. bruises in the genital area and inner thighs, bleeding from the anal area, panic attacks, pelvic injuries, trouble walking or sitting, suicide attempt, or their undergarments being torn, bloody, or stained. And then another type of elder abuse is self-neglect. Self-neglect is a big one, especially as they continue to get older. We normally see it in communities 80 plus, but it's bed sores, dehydration, weight loss, dirty clothing, lack of food in the home, lack of medical attention, poor hygiene, and poor sleep. And I say all this just to make it aware. In Guilford County, elder abuse has risen 253% in the last 2 years. The most common that we have seen so far in my job and in the community when we work with law enforcement would be financial exploitation and sexual assault. This is just being said just so that you could be aware that it can happen to anyone. It's possible. It's something that needs to be looked at as well. And physical abuse is another thing that we're starting to notice in like the past couple of months. And we can't really explain why we're seeing it. People have a lot of theories such as COVID, and people don't know how to react with being isolated so much, as well as drugs, especially now. We started to see a higher use in drugs, not really any particular drug, but just drugs in general. And with older adults being so vulnerable, they always seem to be the first to want to be attacked. But because of the increase, we have also increased the elder abuse laws. So in North Carolina, elder abuse is a Class F felony. And in order for this to actually be in effect, you have the person who is doing the abuse has to be a caretaker. Now, if they're not a caretaker, then it's just a misdemeanor. And when we say caretaker, we mean someone who is caring for the older adult. So that can be something as simple as buying their groceries or getting their medication for them or giving them a bath. Anyone who is doing any form of care for this older adult and is abusing them is a Class F felony. The max for it right now is about 20 years in prison, and the minimum for it is 180 days in prison. But it's something that we take very serious and something that I take very serious. We've had a lot of situations in the past couple of weeks of physical assault on elders in North Carolina. So it's something the community needs to be aware about. And as far as resources, all elder abuse does not happen in home. It happens in nursing homes. They're gathering groups anywhere, but for the ones that happen in nursing homes, you can always contact your local ombudsman. And an ombudsman is someone who basically goes in and evaluates the situation and identifies the abuse. They check out the facility to see if it's running properly, to make sure they have the proper staff. It's just a lot of different rules that go into it. And as far as another resource that we are seeing that we need a lot more of would be caregiving resources for caregivers. So we have like a lot of different support groups. Family Services of Piedmont will actually have a caregiver support group starting in August of 2020. It'll be free of charge. There are also some other free resources that they have in certain adult day centers. Elizabeth Tab Williams has a caregiver support group that's also free. I want to say Wellsprings is also opening back up their caregiving support group, and it will also be something that is free for the community. And then here's some other resource services. The Family Justice Center in Greensboro is located right across the street from the courthouse. That is where Family Services of the Piedmont actually work inside of. It's just a law enforcement based center. It has all different types of aspects. So we work closely with criminal charges and civil charges for elder abuse. And then the Senior Resource Center is a big one. They have, seems like everything. They are the best resource that I have come across in Guilford County as far as for caregivers and for older adults who need to stay active or engaged with the community. And then the Smith Active Adult Center, they have an adult day center where they do numerous things. They participate in like different classes. They have exercise programs. They also hosted the senior games that was this year. They're just a big resource in the community that is beneficial for elder care or even caregivers that need additional help. And then here's just some contact information. It's my work email as well as my community outreach team email. If you're interested in any of the services or know anyone that I mentioned before. I did want to mention, I do have some of my colleagues on here. I believe Sierra is on here. She is the human trafficking specialist that we have at Family Services. And I believe that Stephen Fletcher is on here. He is our director of victim services. So he knows it all. But yeah, these are my contacts. If you have any questions about anything, if I spoke too fast, feel free to email me, or you can ask me now and we can touch back on it if anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Mari. So yeah, Mari sort of talked a lot about some of the work that she does. And again, she specializes in elder abuse. She's quite versed in lots of different older adult and care resources and in the caregiver resources. So we want to open it up now to your questions. I have a few here that were either sent to me earlier or that we talked about earlier, but I'll go ahead and open it up. Does anyone have any questions for Mari about something they might be interested in learning a little bit more about?
I see one in the chat. Is financial abuse a part of elder abuse? So yes, financial abuse is a form of elder abuse. Right now, it is the most common form of elder abuse as far as scams, informal agreement. And with it being an informal agreement, it is actually a criminal charge. If you want more help on that, email me, because there's some things just because of what you sent me, I can't say, but I could definitely help you with that and start getting the process so that we can get, sorry, I was reading the question again. Well, you can get the power of attorney and everything switched over, especially if it's an informal agreement with a non-family member. Not sure if that answers your question, but yes, it is a form of elder abuse. And just to touch base on the financial abuse, it is also part of the Class F felony agreement, because once you are considered someone's power of attorney, then you are supposed to do everything in your will to ensure the safety of that person. And once you start to steal, it is considered a crime. And yeah, you can actually do federal time for something like that, especially with that amount of money that is taken.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What if you suspect that there is elder abuse happening and it is their spouse that is doing the abuse? And an example of that abuse might be neglecting some health concerns, like if family members suspects that someone has dementia, but their spouse either refuses to see it, doesn't want to make appointments, would that be considered like elder abuse? Could that person's legal children, because if it's a step family situation, what rights do they have to intervene for their biological parent?
So yes, it is a form of abuse. Is neglect. Neglect is also a form of abuse. I didn't talk about all the forms, but just to go over them, it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, self-neglect, neglect, and abandonment. Those are all forms of elder abuse. And it is considered a form of abuse because they're neglecting the fact that there's medically something wrong with this individual. So in order to proceed, the legal child has the right to take this parent to the doctor and get them diagnosed. If they aren't formally diagnosed, then no, it is not abuse. But once there's a diagnosis attached to whatever's happening, it is considered abuse. So if the parent and the daughter, for example, were to go to the doctor and the doctor diagnosed, a neurologist diagnosed the mother with dementia, and the husband proceeds to ignore the fact that she has dementia and not give her the proper medication, it would be considered abuse. And that, again, is a Class F felony because the husband is the caretaker and he is neglecting the fact that his wife needs this form of care in order to prosper or, live an active daily life.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mari, I had a similar question asked in the chat too about what rights that a child has over the spouse of an older adult. So I think that answered a lot of it, but I assume like you mean what legal rights and then also like medical rights that child would have over a person's a loved one's spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Or a parent's spouse.
To answer for the financial abuse question, if you actually go to the Family Justice Center and speak to Heather McGow, she's also a student at UNCG in the master's program, but she is the elder coordinator at the Family Justice Center, and she works with financial abuse, and she does a phenomenal job at helping these older adults get their money back or even get their abusers prosecuted. Is there anyone?
Looks like we have a question. Oh, go ahead.
And to answer one of the questions in the chat about the do not call registry, there isn't anything we have found yet that we can do to stop these phone calls daily. There is a phone company. I can't think of the name, but if I do, I'll make sure I have her email it out at the moment. They have a phone service that screens calls and it'll let you know, it's kind of like an iPhone, it'll let you know if it's a spam risk or not. It's free of charge. It's mostly for anybody, but you have to be 50 or older to qualify for the phone itself. But other than that, no, there isn't anything we can really do for phone screening.
I think it sounds like sometimes the phone screenings and solicitation falls or could fall under that financial abuse too. I know I've had a family member who's an older adult who's been a victim of a call that ended up being a scam, and it was really tough trying to untangle what had happened. So I guess my question for that is if someone suspects this type of stuff, like do we start by contacting one of the advocates, like you mentioned, either at Family Services of the Piedmont or at the Family Justice Center, or do you start with the police, or how do you go about reporting? Or maybe you'll get to that later, but that's just a
so no, you can just you can contact an advocate. What I always suggest is to always do a police report regardless of what they say. Still do the police report so that if you do have to do criminal charges, it looks good on your end that you did do your part. And people normally lack people normally don't understand the part of, as an advocate, I'm always going to encourage you to do what's best for you. So always file a police report, even at your slightest suspicion, file a police report, and then you can go to the Family Justice Center. If you don't want to file a police report, Heather can also help you with filing a police report for the financial abuse. As far as like the physical, emotional, and mental abuse, I do that process, and it's called a 50B, so it's a protective order. And we just start the protective order process, excuse me, or we start with like little resources if that's not the route you want to take, as far as like counseling services or group counseling or anything like that. But yeah, you can always start with us or start with the police. There's really no order to it. It's just whatever you feel comfortable with. All right. And then I have one more question in the chat. If you have an elder who can't live at home alone and is low income with few resources, what are your options? It says, if you have an elder who can't live at home and is low income with few resources, what are your options? I guess my question is for this one, do they want to continue to live at home? Well, you said they can't, but do they want to continue to live at home or not? Because all patients have rights. And if they don't want to be placed somewhere, you physically can't place them there because it is against their resident right or their right as an older adult or their victim's rights as well. Sorry, just trying to see if she answered. But far as resources for people with low income, there's a lot of living communities that accommodate people with low income just off of certain stipends. I can send you a list of those too. I can get her to send you out a list of those, or I can send you one directly. It doesn't really matter. But there's also some income-based in-home health aides that assist. Those are a little bit cheaper than actually putting someone in a facility. And those are a lot of resources as well that I can send. I know one off the top of my head right now is Home Instead. They have a different sliding scale for what they work off of. They don't really promote it as much because, you know, the more money people have, the more likely, you know, but they do have a sliding scale and it works. It is somewhere I also refer most of my clients when they want to stay in home.
We had another question in the chat, and it was related to the question that Gail had asked earlier. So if the older adult refuses to see a medical professional and the child isn't physically able to like lift and move them and get them in the car to take them, what should someone do? And then she also said, I know PTAR can transport, but that is expensive. So what are some, I don't know, recommendations you might have if there is an older adult who needs care but is unwilling to go and you're physically unable to move them there?
Pace of the Triad is a good transportation service in Guilford County, as well as the Shepherd Center. They have transportation services, but you have to look into them because with COVID, a lot of things did change. And PTRC, it is insurance based. So I'm not sure if they told you that before, but it shouldn't be that expensive because I know some of the people were getting it for like $1 a day if they had Medicaid or Medicare. And I don't believe it's more than $1 a ride for PTAR. Oops, sorry, trying to see more questions. But to answer that one, I would contact PACE, PACE of the Triad, and they're a good transportation service as well.
All right, what about questions to ask? So when we've got an older or an elder loved one and we are looking at having, I mean, for many of us, I know on the call, some of us are the primary caretaker. So, you know, we're the one actually like, you know, taking them to and from appointments or helping them with meals or bills and that kind of thing. But in some cases where we need to look for help, whether that be an in-home person, in-home care, or looking at a, you know, a facility of some sort, are there, I don't know, questions that are good to ask for us to think about asking, or I don't know, things to look for in terms of service or the environment or the person? You know, what are some of the things or the steps that we can take as that person in that caregiver role or that decision-making role to help protect our loved ones?
One of the questions I always encourage clients if they're going to go to a living facility to ask is, and this sounds so invasive, but how many people work here? That is a big question because in the state of North Carolina, you have to have 2 CNAs to every 10 residents. I always ask how many people live here, how many people work here, and how many times a day do they eat, and what is the schedule for feeding time. And that's just general questions, and it just starts conversation. And facilities normally like to see that you're super involved in your family. And if they can't answer those on the spot, that is always a red flag for me. Because I always feel like you could ask me right now, 188 people work at Family Services of the Piedmont. We have budget cuts, so that's about to change. But as soon as it happens, I'll know exactly how many people work there, because I think that's super important. You need to know how many people you are working with and how many people are going to be working with you. And it's the same for my family. My great grandma is actually in a living facility now. And that was one of the questions I asked was, how many people live here? What is the meal hours? What is the medication rotation? And what is the level of care? So in living facilities, they normally have 5 levels of care: level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 always being the highest, level 1 always being the lowest. If they normally don't have 5, then they're not a high functioning living facility. It's not very independent, but more like a nursing home than living facility. If you're gonna do like an adult day center, still ask how many people work there. Ask the different activities they do throughout the day. Also ask if they have a calendar with the activities on it that they're gonna participate in. And you can also ask something as simple as, what's something to ask or we asked? You can always ask something as simple as, do you have something that they like to do? So if you could think of a hobby that your mom likes to do off the top of your head, like listen to music, you can ask, do they have like a music and memory activity or something like that, just to keep people on their toes. And I always tell people, if they can't answer those questions, it's probably not the location for you.
And then what about in-home care? Are there certain questions that we're also looking at asking?
In-home care, it's a little different. When I refer someone to in-home care, I always go to places that do background checks, because a lot of facilities, when you do in-home healthcare, you don't have to do background checks. So that's something I ask is, do you all do background checks? And then another thing that we are starting to notice is older adults and secondhand smoking. I'm not a fan of it, but if you smoke, that's cool. That's your option. But as you get older, that becomes an issue and can develop a lot of issues later on down the road. But we always ask, do you allow smoking and do you do background checks, before I even suggest it as a resource to anybody. And I ask, is everybody certified to be a personal care assistant or a CNA or a medical assistant? And we just ask, is this 24-hour care, or how are your shifts broken up, just to get an idea of in price. But yeah, that's.
Is there any type of like rating system? I'm thinking of like childcare facilities. There's the STAR method system. When it comes to facilities, or I guess in-home or out of the home care, are there rating systems that are like an official one, or is it just more like you said, looking at reviews, asking questions, word of mouth, or going to a resource like yourself?
You can go on nc.nursinghome.gov, and it'll basically tell you like the last few complaints that a nursing home had, and if an ombudsman ever had to be in the facility, if a facility was ever at risk for losing their license. I can send you all the website again, but yeah, there's an official website that you can actually look at to see the STAR system. And most of the ratings on there are from officials. So like law enforcement, how many times law enforcement has been to this facility, or how many times has EMS been to this facility, stuff like that is on the website as well.
I had another question come in the private chat, but on the chat directly to me. Are there resource contacts for the surrounding counties? I know your family services of the Piedmont. I don't know how many counties that you cover, but if someone is in like Rockingham County or Randolph County, where should they start in terms of contacts and resources for services like what you offer?
The county's website. We do service Rockingham County a little bit, and Alamance just a little bit, because they are smaller counties. But for the most part, we also know, like if you were to call the office tomorrow and ask to speak to the elder abuse advocate, I know a few resources out of county. As far as Chatham County, I have available resources, Alamance County, Randolph County, Allegheny County, Rockingham County, and I'm forgetting one.
Okay. That's a pretty good list of our surrounding area.
Yeah.
They could contact you or another advocate there at Family Services, and you would help put them in touch with someone in their county.
Yes.
Okay.
We try to keep in touch with the surrounding counties just because services are so limited right now with COVID.
And Dr. Kara is on the call and or on the Zoom today. And she mentioned too, that if you ask for it, nursing homes are required to give you their most recent quality report, but it sounds like you have to request it. They're not just giving that to you on the tour. Okay.
Yeah. If you forget, you can go on the nursing home website and it's up there too.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Caro. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Mari. Great presentation. I did have a quick question, comment, Mari, and I'll be transparent. I am technically one of Mari's instructors, so this might be a little unfair. But one of the comments still was really making me think. I wonder if you've ever come upon a situation as an elder care advocate where you had an older adult who, and I don't know if this is how you come to things, because also my apologies, I missed like the first 5 minutes of your presentation, where a sibling, a child, an adult child, or maybe that older adult sibling or that older adult's neighbor, somebody has alerted you or reached out to you saying, hey, we suspect there is neglect going on, or there's self-neglect going on related to kind of health issues or even like hygiene issues. And you go to the older adult's home and they're very resistant to you. They're resistant to what you're telling them. They're resistant to wanting to hear that they need any type of medical attention. I'm wondering, in those situations, in keeping in line with respecting the dignity of older adults and the autonomy of older adults, and let's assume that there's no cognitive impairment, what would be your first steps? Would that be a situation where you would, try to start off with something like you were mentioning earlier, where maybe you reach out to social work, or maybe you reach out to somebody else that can maybe kind of chat with them and build that rapport so that they're open to that? I'm just wondering if you've come across a situation like that.
Yeah, I actually had a case not too long ago. Her pastor had reached out. There was some form of self-neglect going on, and I am a mandate reporter. So something is told to me about elder abuse, child abuse, harm of self or others, I have to report to law enforcement. And because this was reported to me, I did have to get the police involved, and we had to get APS involved. Regardless if it actually was neglect or not, it's just something we have to go out and check on. So she was actually living with her adult son, and he was the one that was doing the neglect. But she was also self-neglecting herself. So what we had to do was, APS is Adult Protective Services. So what we had to do was go into the home. We can't really tell the older adult while we're there. We just let them know, like, hey, we're here to do a wellness check, see how they're doing. If they're resistant to letting us in, at that point, my hands have to be off of it, and it becomes a law enforcement issue in Guilford County. So police have the right to remove the person from the home and go get them evaluated in their professional opinion. But they also have to talk with APS and let them know what they're doing. So when the situations with self-neglect or neglect, police have to get involved, and police have to remove you from the situation and take you to get medically evaluated just to make sure that you're actually okay, because they can't just take your word of saying that you're okay because someone reported the abuse. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks. I just think it's really interesting. I mean, interesting, sad, the whole situation. I find it really interesting because, as you know, I'm very new to North Carolina, and previously I was in Connecticut, and I think the issue, in my opinion, around elder abuse policy and laws in the country are that they vary so widely from state to state. So I was really surprised to hear, and really actually very pleased to hear of a lot of the sounds like laws and systems in place, at least in North Carolina, to actually prosecute levels of elder maltreatment and elder abuse, because that's not the case in every state. And so, I think it's just a really complex situation. But thank you. Yeah, that was great.
on that subject of laws, if some type of abuse is reported and the older adult says, no, that's, I'm okay, or that's not happening. Let's say they're trying to protect a loved one, or they feel threatened, or they're scared. How does that work with what's being reported against the word of the victim?
So we have this thing where we try 3 times for at least for the older adult to do it themselves before we get law enforcement involved. Because again, I hate getting law enforcement involved, because once law enforcement is involved, you really have no say in what happens. Not me as the advocate, but you as the client, if you're being abused. Once they are involved, they are taking responsibility for you. So if they think that you're being physically abused, they're going to take you to get medically evaluated, or call the EMS to medically evaluate you and determine if you are being physically abused or not. Same with sexual assault, same with mental abuse. But when you're mentally abused, the only difference is they have to IVC you, and that's involuntarily commit you to a mental health behavior facility, which is normally Moses Cone in Greensboro, for you to get evaluated for mental abuse. That's the only difference in physical and everything else, though. But we try as advocates to encourage you at least 3 times to let us know what's going on before we have to take that further step and get adult protective services as well as law enforcement involved. Because again, I'm not adult protective services. I'm here to help the client, but adult protective services is there to basically take over from the client, because they have deemed you cannot make the decision yourself. So this is what we're here to help you do, if that makes sense. That was a good question.
Are there other questions from those that are with us today? This might be a question we should have started with, or I should have asked way earlier. As far as risk for types of elder abuse, are there certain, who is at risk? I mean, I know everybody is at risk, but do you see it happen more within certain groups or demographics or areas than others?
So it happens more in women. And as far as demographics too, more in Caucasian women, or at least Caucasian women are reporting it more than any other ethnic group or cultural group. It also happens more in dementia and Alzheimer's patients, as well as I'm not gonna say mentally unstable, but we're just gonna say people who are not stable enough to mentally make cognitive decisions for themselves. But we have also noticed too, I don't like to use that information just because me personally, I've seen all walks of life come in, from the richest to homeless people come in because of elder abuse. So me personally, my statistics, I see more men than I see women. And I see more like Asian men than any other race come in for elder abuse for me in Guilford County as an elder abuse advocate once we did my numbers. So, but those are the statistics for the United States.
And what about the resources for, like when it's something that's more self-neglect? So they're not, maybe I've got a parent and I am seeing there's a lot of self-neglect. I'm trying to help them learn how to maybe remember to take care of themselves, or remember medications, or, what are those resources there to either help support the caregiver? I know you mentioned the caregiver support group that y'all are starting in August. Are there certain places caregivers can go, and, or I guess the second part of the question, are there, I guess by that same token, a place or a service where, I don't know, the older adult could be educated more? That's probably not the right way to say it, on how to take care of themselves, or, remembering to do these, the basics of maybe hygiene and personal care.
Yeah, so the Senior Resource Center normally has some presentations for caregivers and for older adults on things to that mentioning. I do a presentation there almost every month on elder care, and then someone follows behind me with hygiene care, and then someone normally follows behind with medication, the importance of taking your medication. We always just encourage people to have a plan of care. So that's just having something written down on, this is what we want to happen. These are the goals we're trying to reach, and these are the things we need to do in order to reach these goals. A calendar, always encouraged. For my grandma, we have a calendar that's big enough for her to see on, so that she knows at the same time every day, this is what she needs to be doing. We set alarms. A lot of in-home health aides, they set alarms for the older adults so that they know this time is what I need to be doing this time is what I need to be eating, stuff like that. Just basic stuff that you would do for yourself. But so yeah. And just to answer this one question I got, it says, if an individual lives alone and falls a lot in their home and requires EMS for assistance to get up, does it get reported to law enforcement? Is there a point where EMS will deem the individual no longer safe to be alone? Yes. If the EMS, I'm not sure exactly how many times, I want to say it's has to be like 15 out of the year or something like that. They keep a record, but we're doing a lot of more EMS training with them so that we can get them acclimated to knowing the signs of when someone needs to start going to the hospital, especially being older, because again, you have the right to refuse, and if they refuse, you can't just send them unless a next to kin steps in, power of attorney, medical power of attorney steps in and says, no, this person needs to go here. But for the most part, yes, EMS can deem that this person needs to go to the hospital, and we need to figure out what's wrong with them, but they can't force it. But if they start to come out there enough to the point they're noticing that the person is neglecting themselves, or their care, like their caregiver is neglecting them, then yes, they'll call law enforcement and get them involved next. But yes, EMS is actually in the process of training to have that right to call and get the older adult taken to the hospital to be evaluated. Let's see. It's 8 times in 1 month that they have to be called to the home. And if they are being called that many times and they're not deeming that person, then the person is probably refusing to go to the hospital. So.
And before we let you go, or while we're waiting for any more incoming questions, you mentioned a little bit about family services of the Piedmont at the beginning of your presentation. I know you do a lot to help family members from kind of birth to death, I guess you'd say. Are there, I've even learned a lot about, the advocates and who to contact. It sounds like just a wonderful place to start and have someone like yourself to help me field through some of this information and know where to go or what questions to ask. What are some of the other services that family services that Piedmont offers? So I know there's this elder abuse that you've talked about today, or elder care. I know Sierra's on the call who works with human trafficking. What's sort of the scope of services that your organization that you work for covers?
Sierra, help me out if I missed anything. We do sexual assault. We work with sexual assault, domestic violence. I'm blanking.
Child abuse, financial instability. There's so much. Basically, what I've learned to say is just that family service at the Piedmont pretty much touches on almost everything. So if there's a need in the community, we can help you, or we can refer you to someone that could help you. But I think the main focus is our domestic violence, sexual violence, financial instability, and child abuse. I think that's it.
And that's for any age, right? I mean,
Yes.
like if there's a student that's struggling with some of these, or I'm thinking about who I maybe see here at the university.
Yeah, we do a lot of programs out at UNCG with financial consumer credit consolidation and help them with their student loans and things like that. We're also getting involved at UNCG's LGBTQ plus community with our outreach specialist. And not too long ago, we did what was that? For Sexual Assault Awareness Month, it was What Were You Wearing type program. It was at A&T though, and it was basically just showing that you don't have to be half naked to be sexually assaulted, and sexual assault happens to anybody.
Right. Well, I have tried to make an extensive list of notes, and Mari and I, we have a follow-up meeting tomorrow. One of the things that we can do is following our time together today, we'll put together a list of some of the things that we discussed today, some of those resources and websites, questions that Mari shared with us, and we will send it out to those of you that are with us on this call today. And some had registered and wanted the recording. We won't post this recording, again, just because some of the questions might be of a personal nature. We'll just send it out to those that are registered, or if you have someone that, you know, wants to see it, they can email and request it of us, but we won't post it on our website or anything. But we will send out those resources and the information that you see here on your screen to everybody in an email in the next couple days. Any final questions?
I just
Mari,
want to
thank
say
you. Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
thank
go ahead,
you.
Gail.
I just want to say thank you. This is such a great topic to be talking about, and having this safe space to talk about it and to ask some of these questions. So thank you guys for putting this on for all of us.
Thank you. Again, today is Elder Abuse Awareness Day, so I just appreciate you all taking the time to log on and have questions for us.
And this was something too that we had, we try to send out, you know, a survey, and a survey is a survey that has its limitations, but we try to really solicit from our employees what they want to hear more of or want to learn more about, or what resources they need. And this was one that came up, not just elder abuse, but just resources in general for older adults in the workforce. That's another one that Mari's helping us with that we didn't mention. Support for those who are still working, because people are working beyond 50 and 65 and 85 now. And so resources for them. Dr. Kara did a talk with us back in January on relationships as we age. That was excellent. Elise, Dr. Eifert, I think was with us in November of last year on caregiver support. So we're going to be sort of recycling some of those and having more of conversations like these throughout the upcoming year. We're in planning mode right now for the coming semester, the fall semester. So as you all, I don't know, even if you didn't fill out the survey that we sent out, if there are things that you want to hear or learn more about, please send us an email, or, you know, drop a paper in an interoffice mail and do snail mail, or let us know on social media, something like that. But let us know if there are, you know, certain topics or areas that you want us to cover, because I mean, as you know, wellness is not just one thing. It's not just eating healthy and moving more. It is an umbrella of things. And I think for a lot of us now, especially in those caregiver roles, or as we age ourselves or care for loved ones that are aging, that these are things that directly and indirectly affect our well-being. And so they are important, and they do fall under this employee wellness category. So we're trying to expand our services, and we're so grateful to the gerontology program here at UNCG. Again, through the requests made from our employees, we started this relationship and partnership with them, which led me to Mari. And so while I'm excited she's graduating, I'm kind of sad, because she's been a wonderful resource for the 8 weeks that we've had her. But hopefully we'll be able to continue to be able to answer some of these questions and have more opportunities, like you mentioned, Gail, just to sort of share and ask those questions in a space that feels comfortable, or at least I hope it felt comfortable for you. So we'll be hopefully sending more of these. And like Mari mentioned at the beginning, if you have questions, specific questions, keep her email in mind. She's also got the one up here just in general for Family Services of the Piedmont, or if there's ones that we can forward along, we're happy to do that too. So I appreciate Mari's time, the gerontology program's time, and all of you that are here with us today for taking the time to be with us for an hour of your day. Anything else from you, Mari?
No, again, just thank you guys so much. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you all so much. I hope you have a good rest of your day and a nice week. See you soon.